today's episode, Metro will be interviewing Julien Barrier to hear how we develop the newest materials, including Manchester's crowning achievement, graphene.
Hello and welcome back to Coffee with PhD students. Today I'm here with Julien Barrier, who is a final year PhD student in condensed matter physics here at the University of Manchester. Hi, could you introduce yourself and tell us what exactly condensed matter physics is?
Hi, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure. So I'm a final year PhD student here at the University of Manchester, and I've been working with graphene for the last 4 years. So what we do basically is we create on-measure materials by stacking graphene layers with other 2D materials, and then we measure this at low temperatures and high magnetic fields, and we try to see if there are unexpected properties at the quantum level.
So you mentioned that you were doing your research on graphene. So could you tell us more about what graphene is and what makes it interesting, and what are some of the practical uses of graphene in general?
Sure. So graphene is a one atom thick layer of carbon. It has raised a huge interest because its electronic properties are much better than what could be achieved with other materials. And recently, there's been an additional interest in it because of the ability to create on-demand materials by stacking different layers in a different way that is not possible by nature. So exploring the physics and the electronic properties with these sort of materials has raised a lot of interest.
That sounds really fascinating. Could you tell us more about your area of research and what you do in particular now?
Yeah, so one of the projects that we've done is stacking graphene with hexagonal boron nitride, which is another material of the same sort, except that instead of carbon, it uses boron and nitrogen. So what you have to imagine is, for example, if you take a picture with your phone, a picture of your monitor, what you would see is sort of wavelets of dark and bright regions that are due to the fact that the pixel of your phone and the pixel of your monitor are not really aligned. And this is the exact thing that happens in this graphene on hexagonal boron nitride, where sometimes the atoms are aligned and sometimes you move a little bit and they're misaligned, then they start being realigned again. And this creates interesting properties. One of the things that we've seen is at very high magnetic fields, 500,000 times the magnetic field of the Earth, we've created a new form of quasi-particles. So this work has been published last year and has raised a lot of interest for potential applications, even though that's purely scientific. You can't create this. You cannot create devices that do not function if you don't have the magnetic field that is necessary to operate them. So that's the sort of research that we do, create new materials like stacking Legos at the atomic scale.
That sounds really, really amazing, to be honest. So let us move on how you got into doing a PhD in graphene. So what was your journey up till here? Have you always wanted to do something like this?
So my training is not conventional for a physicist. I did my master's and bachelor in Paris, where I've been taught about chemical physics, so double major in physics and chemistry. And then through studies of new materials, I came to the material science and discovered graphene and the quantum physics of graphene and all the new properties. I've been quite curious about that, and this curiosity has driven me into doing the PhD. I think if there are undergrad students that are listening today, I would advise them to pursue their own interest. If they're curious about something, just start digging and start seeing what is more and more interesting. And you'll find something really interesting, and you'll find the people who are passionate about that work. If you contact them, this will be the natural path to a PhD. Just be curious.
That's really good advice for the people who are listening right now. So, what do you think is the future of graphene research?
So there's been quite a lot of interest in the new family of 2D materials that have been found after graphene. So graphene has opened a new direction and opened the possibility to exfoliate and create 1D layers of basically everything that exists, as long as it's possible to exfoliate. And therefore, people have tried to stack different layers of different materials. For example, niobium diselenide was discovered as an atomically thin layers, and the properties that it has as a one-layer thick material is completely different from the properties of the bulk. Now, what if you create something that is stacking this with graphene and then adding an additional layer of boron nitride, for example? What if you create Legos at the atomic scale? That's the direction that people are pursuing right now.
That sounds really great. So this brings us to the end of the podcast. Thanks for being here, Julian. It was great talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.